gets you up to date with the news right now.
Yeah, let's take you through your morning papers. Today a really historic day for Newsweek. A lot of people will keep hold of these as mementos of this historic day and keep them for lifetime. So we're going to review them this morning in the company of the actor Christopher Biggins and the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. A warm welcome to both of you. Christopher, I may start with you. You've chosen the front of the Express this morning, and this is with the lovely portrait, newly released by Buckingham Palace, of Her Majesty the Queen, with the headline, "Farewell to our glorious Queen."
Yes, I mean, good morning, both of you. It's a wonderful picture, which is on most of the front pages today, which quite rightly should be. And farewell, our glorious Queen, a perfect thing to say, because she was glorious and she was so special to all of us. I mean, it's an extraordinary day coming here and talking about this wonderful, wonderful woman who we will never see again, but we will always have her in our hearts forever. It's a wonderful picture, that. I mean, just, once again, there's that twinkle in the eye and that wonderful, wonderful smile, which will stay with us forever.
It will, absolutely. And as you would expect, that same photograph pretty much on all of, in fact, I think universally on all of the fronts of the newspapers. Dawn, you've chosen the Daily Mail. King Charles moved beyond measure at Britain's grief.
Good morning, everyone watching and listening. Thoughts with everyone who are feeling very sad today. I've chosen the Daily Mail because, interestingly, Isabel, they've gone with another picture. They haven't got the newly issued picture of the Queen with her beautiful blue eyes and that lovely brooch that her dad gave her on her 18th birthday, and we know how close she was to her father. But I've chosen the Daily Mail because they have a lovely picture of Her Majesty waving "Our last farewell" is the headline, and that's a direct quote from Charles, who gave a speech last night thanking everybody for the comfort and support that they have given him and his family over this period of mourning. And I think Charles at the moment is doing a sterling job. I mean, he really has hit the ground running, to use a phrase that we would use, he probably wouldn't. And it was just the fact that he genuinely, I find, seems to really appreciate all the effort that people have put into paying their respects to his mother, and the kindness that people have shown to him and Camilla in particular. It hasn't always been an easy relationship with the public, but all the kindness that people have shown to the royal family, who are, at the end of the day, a family mourning a loved one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody made the comment over the weekend that if they didn't have to close the queue because it was the state funeral today, that the queue could have carried on at that length. Well, indefinitely. I mean, how long would it have gone on?
And then people would have come back again because they enjoyed the experience.
Well, there were some people that have done it
got
a few
something
times.
out of the experience.
But that is, I suppose, the message to King Charles of just how dear she was held in everybody's hearts. Let's look at The Guardian, Christopher. This is about the world leaders that, as we know, attended this incredible reception at Buckingham Palace last night, and then will this morning be making their way to Westminster Abbey from, we're told, around 8 o'clock. So not long to go now until they'll be filing into the Abbey for that funeral at 11 o'clock.
And I were talking about this earlier. Can you imagine what the plasmon must be like? I mean, extraordinary. Who sits next to who? Who moves here? Who moves there? I mean, it must be a logistic nightmare. I mean, getting all those people in the order in which they must come in. I mean, obviously America, which we're going to talk about later, he arrived in his own jet, and he's arriving in his own car called the Beast. And the others are all in buses, all the kings and queens and the heads of state, and I think that's wonderful that they're actually going, because it's the easiest way of getting them in there. But of course America is different, and America is America, and he's arriving in his Beast, and it's going to be extraordinary. I mean, I can't wait to watch this. It's going to be history in front of our eyes, happening today. Such a special day for a special woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dawn, you queued. You actually did queue. What was the experience like for you, and how long did it take?
I was just listening to you and David Sarkey just now, Eamonn, and it was, the word is experience. It was an experience I will certainly never forget. We were very lucky. We started queuing at 10 to 10 on Thursday morning, and I was able to pay my respects to Her Majesty at 4 o'clock. So it was only 6 hours, 10 minutes. And honestly, Eamonn and Isabel, it was like, obviously the point of it was to pay your respects, but in the end, it was the whole experience of being with people, paying their respects from all over the world. I mean, I was talking to people from Switzerland, from the Caribbean, from America, obviously from all over the country as well, Northern Ireland, the West Country, people that travel. I mean, I literally live over the Thames, so I didn't have far to travel. But from all over the world, and the camaraderie and the bonding, and you know, people will make friends in that queue that they will cherish for life. You will never forget the people you were queuing with. And the experience of that, to say it was a party atmosphere is wrong, but there was this feeling of unity. And after the division we've had in this country for the past few years, that was what I felt was so important. It was like everyone coming together. And there was so much disrespect and hatred for this country from some quarters. And I think that queue proved everybody wrong. I mean, we did it well, we did Her Majesty proud, and we did one another proud. It was unity, it was bonding, and it is everything that is great about Britain. I'm sorry it's a cliche, but there it is. It's absolutely true.
Except not everybody came together, Biggins, and there's been a lot of outrage at the ITV This Morning presenters, Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, who went their separate ways on this. What do you think of the reaction to them?
I think it was a very silly move of their PR people to make this happen. I mean, people have queued for hours and hours and hours, and you can't have people queue. What's the word? Queue.
Queue jump.
Queue jump, that's it. I knew there was a word which was great for it. Queue jumping. I mean, you can't have it. I mean, I was in Plymouth all last week doing a show for the 40th birthday of the theatre, and I desperately wanted to go. We came up yesterday from Plymouth on the train, and we went to the queue. They closed the queue, and so it was, unfortunate. But that's what life is. You can't. I mean, David Beckham. David Beckham was wonderful. I mean, what a man. He queued. And I know lots of other famous people who queued. My friends Anthony and Georgina Andrews queued, and he's not well. And you do these things for your country and for the Queen. And they were out of order, I think, very, very much so.
Morning have come out in defence of them, haven't they, and said that they were attending as part of some filming, and they were able to get in through the media access. But it has upset lots of people. I think, as you say, the contrast of David Beckham, arguably a much bigger star, queuing, but he was doing that, I think, for personal reasons, wasn't he? Dawn, I don't know whether or not, I was hearing about the psychology of the queue and about how there's a sense of jubilation when you first get into the queue, and then in sort of British way, you queue quietly, then you start to make friends with people, and then there's a sort of moment of regret when you think, oh my goodness, I've got another 8 hours to go. Have I made a huge mistake? And then the jubilation when you get over Lambeth Bridge. I mean, just talk to us about that journey and what it was like queuing, psychologically.
Yeah, I mean, it is a psychological thing, really. I mean, you do go through pretty much every emotion. I mean, when you first get in it, it's like, and I was with my husband who can be a bit grumpy, he was going, oh, I'm not sure I can cope with this, I'm not sure I can do it. But as soon as you get the wristband on, and ours was royal purple on at our particular time, you think, right, okay, I'm going to do this now. And then, as you say, Isabel, you get this amazing feeling of camaraderie, and, we're notorious for not talking to one another, aren't we? But everybody was chatting, and, you were getting people's life stories and why they were there, what it meant to them. People were turning up with loved ones' ashes, which I thought was particularly poignant. And I really hate the people that have been sneering at people standing in the queue. Look, you have your opinions, but now is not the time for that. So there were people turning up with loved ones' ashes, little children. As Christopher said, there were people, Susanna Reid, bless her, she, a GMB presenter, she actually turned up with her mum, who was in her mid-80s, and they queued as well. And as you say, Isabel, Susanna and I, we both could have used journalistic privilege and said we were working journalists, we were covering a story, and been allowed to go into the Abbey without queuing up. But the point of this story, Isabel, was the queue. You were paying your respects, but the queue was the point of the story. But when you get, the worst part, walking down the Thames is lovely. It's a beautiful walk, so many historical sites. But you get into our the gardens just before you go into Westminster Hall, and they have a zigzag queuing system. And I must admit, that was hard work, because 3 hours walking down the Thames was very pleasant. 3 hours in zigzags with literally no distraction whatsoever, apart from the end game by that point, was very hard. And I was watching very carefully when David Beckham, and bless him for doing it, was being interviewed, and they asked him about how he physically coped with it, bearing in mind he's a very fit an athlete. And he goes, my back, my lower back in the end was given out, and going, my back was doing that as well. And it was like, but some of the elderly people around us were astonishing. So it does make you view not very kindly of people that did jump that queue. And let's be honest, that's what they did. They jumped the queue. They weren't working, were they?
And wasn't it wonderful when the King and William went to say thank you to the queue?
God, yes.
I mean, that was just marvellous.
Yes,
again, I think the King has come forward unbelievably brilliantly this week. I mean, he's changed.
Yeah.
He's taken on that role absolutely superbly.
It's grown into it, hasn't he?
He really has. I mean, it's fantastic. And look, and the people just loved it. And that's what it's all about. He's giving his country the confidence to live and go on without our Queen.
Now let's talk about the actual event itself, and Princes George and Charlotte will be part of the procession, which is fine. I'm okay. I'm personally okay with that, and I think it's very much something that would be natural to us in Ireland, children grieving and whatever. But there was such criticism about Princes Harry and William at the death of their mother. And although this is the great-grandmother of these children, what do you think about them having to march in a cortege?
And we all know how Harry was affected more than William, because of course he was so young. And I think it's different, though. I think you're right saying it's the grandmother. It's not their mother, and I think this is acceptable, and I think it will make something very poignant about this march. I mean, I think it's extraordinary to see people walk behind a coffin. And I remember when Diana died, Philip insisted on walking with the boys, and even though he had terrible arthritis, and he really was in pain as he did that walk, but he did it to help those boys, and it surely did help those boys. But it's a tough one. It's going to be tough today for all the royals, following that coffin and bringing back so many memories and the crowds. It's going to be extraordinary.
Yeah, it will be extraordinary and really moving to see, as you say, the little ones, George and Charlotte, aged 9 and 7, I believe.
You think they'll only follow the coffin in the church?
I believe they're just arriving at the Abbey and walking up the nave of the Abbey up to the seating area of the royal family, rather than in a procession. I might be wrong, but that is my understanding. It's been a late addition to the plans. The reporting yesterday was that the Prince and Princess of Wales were just weighing up, the pros and cons and whether or not it was right for Prince George and Charlotte. Actually, Charlotte wasn't mentioned, so that was a real surprise to hear that she was being included. But I think, if they can be protected and looked after in that way, it's good and important. As you say, it's an important part of grieving, isn't it? To go to a funeral and to say your goodbyes.
And the actual coffin won't be carried as such. It will be pulled, we believe.
So this is from Westminster Hall, to the Abbey. It's going to be pulled, and I've got the official explanation of that. A gun carriage is going to be drawn by 98 Royal Navy officers, and that is a tradition dating back to Victorian times, as so many of these traditions are, and will be extraordinarily beautiful. I think the thing about the gun carriage that for me
So action, this gun carriage. This gun carriage was in war.
Pared back in a way. You know, we're used to these gilded carriages and gold, and you know, we've always seeing the crown upon the coffin, but the gun carriage incredibly sort of almost humble, which I think is beautiful.
It will be very moving, Dawn.
And I just think, I mean, there are going to be an estimated, as the Mirror was saying today, an estimated 2 million mourners in London today. Biggest event in British history, was twice the turnout of Diana's funeral, obviously 25 years ago now. And I think, you know, we have seen pictures of people camping out for a couple of days now along the Mall and along Horse Guards parades, even though they were specifically told not to do so. But we're British, we do like a queue, don't we? So they were queuing there with their tents already, and I walked down the Mall, just chatting to a few people the other day, and it was lovely. Again, there was this amazing atmosphere, the camaraderie. They had their flasks of tea and a couple of Paddington bears and their flags with Her Majesty on up against the railings. And again, it was almost like the Dunkirk spirit that I think, you know, the one thing I think losing Her Majesty has done, even though it obviously has been an incredibly sad period for so many people, it has brought a sense of unity, I think, and a sense of togetherness that we have been lacking now. And you know what, Eamonn, I think it's also a sense of pride in this country that has also been lacking. And I think it's just so lovely to see so many people coming together, all walks of life, all ages, all religions, all races, togetherness. And you know, as I said, it's 2 million people in London today. I mean, it's going to get very busy, and the organisation is just amazing. And actually, to be part of it, though, I think it is an experience that none of us will ever forget.
And we need that at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you again. The end of the week is going to be hideous for us all.
Figgins and Dawn, with that thought, we'll say goodbye to you. We'll see you again hopefully in about 40 minutes' time. Thank you both very much indeed.